Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if you are making the best decisions when you are trying to find information, especially when a computer is helping you out? Well, this new study dives into a super interesting question about how we make choices, particularly when we're working with artificial intelligence. It is all about authority bias and how it creeps into our judgment, even when we think we're being objective. This research looks at something called authority bias. Think about it like this. We tend to trust people or things that seem to hold a position of authority. This could be a doctor, a professor, or in this case, an AI. The researchers wanted to see if this bias affects how people make decisions when screening research papers, especially with the help of AI. Imagine you are a scientist looking through hundreds or even thousands of research paper abstracts to see if they fit your study. It is a long, sometimes boring task. Now imagine you have an AI that tells you if an abstract is likely relevant or not. Does that AI's opinion influence your own decision? And what about the prestige of the journal where the abstract is published? Does that also sway your judgment? That is exactly what these researchers wanted to find out. So the core question is this: when we collaborate with AI on a task like screening research, do we blindly follow its suggestions? And does the journal it is published in matter more than the actual content? To test this, the scientists set up a clever experiment. They got nearly 1,000 people from different backgrounds like university students and professionals to do a mock abstract screening task. They split them into groups. Some groups got AI recommendations, some got AI disapprovals, and some got no AI input at all. On top of that, for each abstract they looked at, they varied whether it came from a prestigious journal, a less prestigious journal, or had no journal information. This created a really controlled way to see the effects of these different cues. Think of it like this. Everyone looked at abstracts that were intentionally a bit tricky, on the edge of being relevant. Then they were randomly given either a thumbs up from the AI, a thumbs down, or no AI opinion. They also saw abstracts with different journal names. Some names you'd recognize as top tier, and some you'd probably never heard of. And here is where it gets really interesting. The AI's opinion, whether it was a recommendation or a disapproval, had a huge impact. If the AI said, yes, this is relevant, people were much more likely to include it, even if it wasn't a great fit. And if the AI said, no, this isn't relevant, people were more likely to exclude it, even if there was some relevance. This happened across all the different groups of people they tested. The AI was acting like a powerful authority figure, guiding their decisions. Now, what about journal prestige? It had a much smaller effect. It did seem to nudge people towards including irrelevant abstracts if they were from a prestigious journal. It's like, oh, it is from Nature or Science. It must be important. So let's include it just in case. But this effect wasn't as strong or consistent as the AI's influence. And interestingly, for relevant abstracts, lower prestige journals didn't necessarily lead to more exclusions. What this all boils down to is that AI, even with its seemingly objective nature, can introduce significant biases into our decision-making. We tend to trust its judgment, perhaps even more than we should. And this is a new kind of authority bias that we need to be aware of. This bias can lead to two main problems. First, we might include irrelevant papers, which waste time and resources because the AI's recommendation was wrong. Second, and perhaps more worryingly, we might exclude important papers because the AI disapproved of them, leading to lost information that could be crucial for a research review. It is important to note that these AI effects were strong and consistent across different age groups and cultural backgrounds. This suggests that as AI becomes more common, this authority bias might be a universal challenge. People are still figuring out how to best work with AI. And right now, we're often giving it a lot of weight. The design of this study is key to understanding how they got these results. They used a 3x3 mix design. This means that for the AI input, participants were in one of three groups. They either saw AI recommendations, AI disapprovals, or no AI at all. That was the between subjects factor. Then, for the journal cues, everyone saw all three conditions within their own trials. Abstracts with prestigious journal names, abstracts with less prestigious journal names, and abstracts with no journal name mentioned at all. That was the within subjects factor, meaning each person experienced all of these. They tested over 900 people in total across 3 different sample groups to make sure their findings weren't just a fluke. The researchers specifically looked at 3 groups: Western graduate students, Asian bachelor's degree holders, and Western professionals, and across all of them, that AI appraisal was the big player. It consistently swayed decisions. This is really important because it means this bias isn't just a niche thing for one type of person. So they had hypotheses like H1, which basically said if the AI recommends an irrelevant abstract, people will be more likely to wrongly say it is relevant, especially compared to when there is no AI label, or when the AI actually disapproves of it. And their results totally supported this. They also had hypotheses like H2, which explored what happens with relevant abstracts. They predicted that if the AI disapproved of a relevant abstract, people would be more likely to wrongly say it is irrelevant. And again, their results backed this up strongly. The AI's disapproval led to relevant papers being tossed out. And with journal prestige, they had hypotheses like H3, suggesting that irrelevant abstracts from prestigious journals would be more likely to be wrongly included. And H4, that relevant abstracts from less prestigious journals might be wrongly excluded. Looking at Table 3 gives us a snapshot of these results. For irrelevant abstracts, the journal Q effect was partial, meaning it only really showed up for Western students and not as strongly for the other groups. But the AI appraisal, that was a different story. AI recommendation versus no AI led to more wrong inclusions across the board. And AI recommendations versus AI disapproval lead to even more wrong inclusions. And for relevant abstracts, the story was similar with the AI. AI disapproval strongly increased the chance of wrongly excluding a relevant abstract. This confirms that the AI's opinion one way or the other was a major driver of errors. When they pulled all the data together using something called a meta-analysis, which helps them get a big picture view across all the studies, they really saw the power of these cues. In Table 5, for irrelevant abstracts, both AI and journal cues boosted the odds of incorrectly including an abstract. But look at those numbers for AI. The AI recommendation versus no AI increased incorrect inclusion. And the AI recommendation versus AI disapproval made it even more likely for people to get it wrong. The AI queue was a much bigger deal than the journal queue, and this is explicitly stated in the discussion. They directly compared the impact of AI and journal prestige. And the findings were clear. AI appraisals had a bigger punch. Participants were more swayed by what the algorithm said than by the reputation of the journal. So, what does this all mean? The study shows that classic ideas about authority bias, how we follow instructions from authority figures, now extend to our interactions with AI. It's not just people who are considered authorities, AI is increasingly seen that way too. The AI suggestions are acting as a new kind of authority. When the AI gives a thumbs up or thumbs down, people tend to follow it, leading to more mistakes, both by including things they shouldn't and by excluding things they should have kept. Journal prestige, on the other hand, is a weaker cue. It can sometimes lead to including irrelevant papers if they are from a top journal, but it's not as powerful as AI. Why is AI so much more influential? The researchers suggest it is because AI appraisals are direct judgments of relevance, right to the point of the task. Journal prestige, however, is more of an indirect signal of general quality. Plus, we tend to see AI as objective and error-free, which boosts our trust. That is called automation bias. So, what can we do about this? The researchers have some practical advice. For AI-aided screening tools, they suggest we should probably avoid directly showing AI appraisals. Instead, maybe the AI could just prioritize abstracts that seem most relevant, letting the human make the final call without being directly told what to think. Scroll second. Transparency in study selection is essential. Henrico, they also stress the importance of being transparent about how AI was used in the screening process. If you are reading a research review, it's good to know if AI played a role in deciding which studies were included. Moreover, review studies can benefit from removing journal information's influence in the abstract screening stage, even though the biases rooted in journal prestige seem less impactful in extent. Team Henrico and they suggest even removing journal information during the initial screening. This might help people focus more on the actual content of the abstract, rather than getting swayed by where it was published. Now, like any study, there are limitations. The journal cues they used were, to some extent, artificial. They picked them based on rankings, but maybe in the real world, domain experts would have even stronger opinions. Also, the AI was always presented the same way to each person, which might not be how it works in real life, where you might see varying levels of AI input. They also mentioned that future research could look at how these biases change if abstracts are very clear versus ambiguous. Right now, they focused on ambiguous ones. And what about screening full papers? Not just abstracts do these biases carry over. To wrap up, this is a really important study because it's the first to systematically show how AI appraisals, as a new form of authority, can heavily influence our decisions in abstract screening, often leading to errors. Journal prestige plays a role too, but it's a weaker one. It highlights that even when we're using smart tools, our own human biases, especially our deference to authority, can still sneak in. It's a call to be more mindful and critical, whether we're dealing with AI or traditional sources of information. I think this research is super relevant because we're all interacting with AI more and more. Understanding how it influences our judgment, especially when it comes to vetting information, is crucial. It makes me think about how we can design AI to be more of a helpful partner and less of an unquestioned authority. Future research could really explore ways to mitigate these biases, perhaps by designing AI systems that encourage more critical thinking from us, or by training people to be more aware of these influences. What do you guys think about this? Have you ever felt overly swayed by an AI suggestion or the prestige of a source? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more science explained, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into the fascinating world of psychology. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.